Hi there. I'm going to start today's episode with a question. How do you feel about your lines and wrinkles, if you have them? Do you associate them solely with the aging process, or do you consider them to be an aesthetic problem that needs correction? Or maybe you do think that lines and wrinkles on your face actually indicate a deeper issue, if you want to call it an issue. Let's talk about the 11s. This is my favorite example for facial patterning. Why? Because the 11s between the brows are extremely common in people, and they are typically the first area to be treated with injectables. So, talking about these lines, if you have them, are they something that you would like gone, that you would like erased? Or maybe have you considered that these lines are maybe facial imprinting from a lifelong feeling of stress, or perhaps it's concentration, or maybe you're just really analytical. When you're focusing on something, you're making it known. Could be frustration or anger too. Whatever it is, I will tell you, in the beauty world, we're often taught to treat these patterns at the surface. So if you go to a clinical aesthetic spa, it's probably going to be, let's use something to resurface the area, like a peel or maybe microdermabrasion or even laser resurfacing. And perhaps at a med spa, maybe the direction is more focused on, let's freeze it, let's paralyze the muscle, let's use fillers. But rarely do we ask why certain areas of the face become overactive and express these patterns in the first place. So basically, today I want to introduce a completely different lens and approach to dealing with these patterns. Perhaps let's look at the skin not just as a cosmetic canvas, but a neuromuscular map. A map of stress patterns, a map of emotional habits, a map of lifestyle habits. Because when we begin to read the face differently in this way, the approach to aging changes completely. This is where the concept of facial somatics begins. What is facial somatics? I never heard that term before. It is a new term, and it was even new to me 2 years ago when I started studying it. Never heard of it. I have been in the spa and wellness industry for well over 20 years. I have a lot of training in a lot of different areas. Never heard of facial somatics. Yet when I did, and when I started studying it, completely changed the way I approach aging for myself, for my practice and my clients. I have become so immersed and passionate about this subject that I even wrote a book called The Quantum Beauty Method. I think I mentioned it in other episodes. I'll tell you more about this book at the end of the episode. But before we begin on addressing what facial somatics means, we need a definition for it. But before we go there, I want to welcome you to today's podcast, or I'm sorry, today's episode. But you're watching the Quantum Beauty Podcast, and this is episode 6, Facial Somatics. and reading the face. So let's start with the definition of what is facial somatics. Now, if you look this up on Google, um, a very good actually definition comes up, and it says facial somatics is a nervous system based approach to facial and skin wellness that works with the muscles, fascia, and emotional holding patterns of the face. I couldn't have said it better myself. So that is what facial somatics is, and that has become the basis of my practice. So I thought for today's episode, we do things a little bit different. And instead of just watching me talk, I thought, well, while I'm teaching this concept of facial somatics, I will put together a presentation because I think it's helpful to have a visual other than watching me talk. The visual helps connect pieces together, and it's a good way to learn. So if you give me a moment, I am going to share my screen. There we go. It worked. All right. Facial somatics, reading the face as a map of tension. Okay. Now I want to get to the next slide. All right. The face is not just skin. We rarely discuss how the face is shaped by the nervous system through our emotions and feelings. I personally, since I began studying facial somatics, view the face completely different. Whether I'm looking at fine lines and wrinkles, whether those wrinkles are dynamic through expression or static, they're just imprinted at that point, or the asymmetry of the face, which becomes very common as we grow older. When I'm looking at these issues, I'm thinking about the person's story behind their face. What helped create those patterns? What is it in your story? What is it within you that created those patterns? But I'm also thinking about which muscles may be constricted, too tight, or maybe flaccid, too loose. With facial somatics, muscle tone, whether it's hypertonic, which would be tightness, or hypotonic, which is weakness, it's very important. It's very, very important. So when we feel an emotion, our nervous system instantly activates, and we can convey what we feel on our faces through expressions. And here I am highlighting stress, but expressions in general create muscle contractions. It could be good emotions or bad emotions if you want to categorize them. But over time, when we repeat this muscle contraction, whatever it is, furrowing the brows, we repeat it over and over again. Maybe we tense our shoulders. Whatever it is, it becomes a pattern. Anything that's repeating itself eventually becomes a pattern. And it's these patterns that we see on the face as visible aging patterns. So, as just to give out some examples, let's talk about crow's feet for a moment. Crow's feet, when we see that, we think, wow, that person smiles a lot. That person's happy. She's got crow's feet. Or what about TMJ issues, pain in the jaw. We often think, okay, do you tense up your jaw? Are you grinding your teeth at night? What about under eye puffiness? It's a different kind of pattern, but it is stress related. But they're all patterns of some kind. That's what's important that is the important takeaway on this slide. Now, my favorite example, the 11 lines. On this slide, I just want to show that there is underlying tension and contraction that's happening underneath the skin. In all actuality, when you furrow your brows, it actually activates and tenses up 3 different muscles in this region of the face. So when you're doing facial somatic work, all 3 of these muscles are intricately targeted to relax. I'm telling you, after facial somatic work, you're not going to feel the power to make expressions, furrowed brows specifically, depending on the work that's done. It's very effective. So muscle tone reflects nervous system state. When the nervous system perceives stress, the body will prepare for fight, flight, or freeze. Focus, I'm not quite sure why I put that in there, to be honest. Um, but anyway, we'll move on. It may come to me why I put that in there. And when you go into fight, flight, or freeze, your muscles respond accordingly. Fight or flight is when the body is activated to fight or run. And in this case, the muscles will constrict. Fight or flight in modern day living could be your drive to work every day, or perhaps your job itself. As a pattern, this state produces tightness in the muscles. Freezing is a little bit different and not often discussed when we're talking about a fight or flight moment, but freezing is when the nervous system collapses. It is a survival mechanism when either actual or perceived danger is around us. You'll often see this in the wild. You'll have a tiger who's chasing its prey, and perhaps eventually the prey becomes cornered, and instant death is a sure thing. It's very probable. And what that prey does is it goes into freeze mode. And in this state, the body basically collapses. So the breathing rate slows down considerably. The heart rate slows down considerably. Pain threshold heightens. And there's probably moments of disassociation where you basically leave your body. These are all ways to prepare for death, to be eaten. However, in modern day world between adults, this pattern may show up, the freeze state, as past trauma. Hence, this could lead to chronic states of anxiety or depression, or perhaps disassociation, where you feel out of sorts, like you've left your body. And this is usually prompted by a nervous system that is dysregulated. But going back to my point, in these states, the muscles become more loose and flaccid. I'm sorry, I should be more clear. In the freeze state, this is when muscles become loose and flaccid. But either way, the muscles need balancing through specific manipulations, and you can address this through facial somatics. Next, I just want the takeaway here to be how muscles are interconnected and related and how they influence one another. So I want you to look at the um, the green area, which is a neck muscle called the platysma. And as you can see, it connects to other muscles in the face, which potentially can contribute to a downturning of the lower face, deeper marionette lines, because the platysma is innervated, connected to the risorius muscle, the modiolus muscle, the mentalis. When it's tight, it's going to pull on these other muscles, which can have a downward effect. So again, facial somatics very naturally can address this and correct it. Or I should say, retrain. Retrain is a better word. So the face is a map of what's going on in the body, whether it's stress, emotion, could be poor posture, could be the fact that you're not breathing right. Your breathing's very shallow. You're not breathing from your abdomen, from your diaphragm. These are all classes in and of themselves. It's very interesting conversation because it's not the conversation we have with our conventional therapists. It's just not. What do conventional therapist practices want to do? Well, they want to focus on the surface. They want to create more volume. They want to freeze the area. Um, they want to peel. They want to peel the area. They want to create some form of trauma to initiate your skin to start repairing itself. However, when system dysregulation is at play, the repair process becomes a bit challenging. Keep that in mind. Now, the alternative approach that you'll find from a facial somatic therapist or a holistic skin therapist is quite different. The focus is regulating the nervous system, releasing and retraining those tension patterns, focusing on posture, focusing on breath. It's a different approach. Here I have 3 tiers of what that different approach looks like. I'm just going to touch on a few of them. We've talked about breath and touch. Let me talk about touch for a moment. The touch is very specific. Am I looking to loosen tension patterns, increase circulation, or am I looking to release fascia, improve hydration, or am I looking to um, reduce puffiness through lymphatic drainage? I do want to talk about that just for a moment, just so you're clear on what touch means. Regulation is referring to nervous system regulation. Diet, hydration, we're all very familiar with these approaches to healthy skin. However, circadian health may sound a little different. Circadian health is extremely important for hormone balancing, natural hormone balancing, and calming a hyperactive nervous system. Nature is another one that's not obvious. Getting out into nature is really beneficial for the gut microbiome. And there is a feedback loop between the gut microbiome and the skin microbiome. And when the gut microbiome is diversified and healthy, the skin tends to be healthy as well. So these are just a few of the different approaches that are implemented through a facial somatic therapist, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them, and or a holistic skin therapist. We're reframing aging entirely. Aging is not just gravity and a collection of symptoms. It is accumulated stress patterns. It is accumulated lifestyle patterns. And it's disconnection. Disconnection from who, you might wonder, or what? Typically, disconnection from yourself, disconnection from your own body, and looking for others to provide quick fixes rather than doing the work on your own. Because you can see a facial somatic and you can feel great after a session. It's like going to the chiropractor, but you still have work to do at home and you still have to address your lifestyle. So I want to thank you for watching today's episode and learning just a little bit about facial somatics. And if you found this episode to be helpful, hit the subscribe button or possibly share it with your loved ones. And as I mentioned, I do want to bring up my book. You're going to find this in the description. There'll be a link to purchase the Quantum Beauty Method. The Quantum Beauty Method really addresses the nervous system, emotional holding patterns. It even goes into some of the facets around anxiety as a disorder. And of course, it contains the 6 pillars of wellness, which serves as the foundation for all of my clients when they become a client here with me at Lotus Evolutions Wellness, located in Scottsdale, Arizona. So I want to thank you again, and I look forward to seeing you next week on my next episode. Have a great week.